The Fishin' Magazine television series is brought to you by Ranger Boats. Still building them one at a time so you can fish hard, run strong, and rest easy. Bass Pro Shops. Quantum and Motor Guide, the choice of serious fishermen. L&L Marine Care products. Take the chore out of marine maintenance. Fishing hotspots. Maps so good, people ask for them by name. Pinpoint Network Fishing Systems, Daylight Corporation, the Fishing Hole in St. Louis, Missouri, and Central Pro-Am Association, the leader in Pro-Am bass tournaments.
Hi, this is Ernie Daughtery, host of the Fishin' Magazine television series. We're at Table Rock Lake for Central Pro-Am Association's 1999 Table Rock Pro-Am Bass Tournament. We've got a great show for you today, one that I think you'll really enjoy. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Table Rock Lake on the famed White River chain is universally regarded as one of America's great bass fishing lakes. And it's at Table Rock that Central Pro-Am Association makes its fourth stop during its landmark 10th anniversary season. 2 weeks prior to this event, Dion Hibden won Central Pro-Am's Titleist tournament on Table Rock, catching nearly 48 pounds of bass in 3 days from flooded bushes in the James River. The water at Table Rock is still high, and a number of anglers have caught fish out of the bushes in practice. But the lake level has dropped nearly 4 feet during the past week, and many anglers, including Table Rock guide and 1996 Pro-Am champion Pete Winters, think traditional early summer structure patterns are likely to predominate.
There's still enough water in a lot of the bushes, but I don't feel that there's that many fish up in the bushes. I believe there'll be a few good quality fish caught flipping, but I think the majority of the fish will be caught more structure-related out off of the bank, out off of drops. I think there'll be a good crankbait bite, like DD22, fat-free shad. A lot of the fish will be out on the ledges or close to deep water.
Kelly Power, who won Central Pro-Am's Fall Pro-Am Spectacular on Table Rock in November, also believes it's tough to predict how this tournament will go.
With the lake being up about 4 foot higher than normal, they're not relating to the bottom as consistent as they normally would. So they have a tendency to move in and out quite a bit more right now than normal. And that's going to be the real key. If these fish, throughout the day, get the opportunity where these fish move up and feed, that's going to be real good. If they don't, I think that there's going to be a lot of smaller males and a lot of Kentuckies caught.
The morning of day one is absolutely perfect, at least if you're bass fishing. It's cool with a light, persistent rain, and the dark, cloudy skies mean the Table Rock bass are likely to be active and in a biting mood. Larry Wilcox finished third in the Central Pro-Am Titleist tournament, and his hot hand is continuing today. Wilcox and amateur partner Larry Stevie, who finished fourth in the amateur division at the Titleist tournament, are bumping the bottom with jigs and grubs, and so far, their day is going well. If they can keep this up, they'll both be in position to be among the day one leaders in this event. Terry Thomas is also sticking with a pattern that produced for him 2 weeks earlier. He's paralleling the bank and fishing a crankbait just out in front of the flooded vegetation. So far, he's getting plenty of strikes. And even if he does get upset with himself when a bass gets loose, all he has to do is keep reeling, and another one will come along right away. Amateur partner Donnie Beeler is working a crankbait behind Thomas to pick up any stragglers. This time, he's hooked a good one, and Thomas rushes to assist him with the net. Randy Scott finished second in Central Pro-Am's Fall Spectacular on Table Rock, and today he's on a pattern that seems likely to put him in contention again. He's fishing a copper-colored buzzbait, and it's continuing to pay off. Sometimes his lure gets the attention of something other than bass, but so far the bark is more aggressive than the bite. Dave Barker won the Table Rock Pro-Am 2 years ago, and he's hoping for another win to raise his Central Pro-Am record victory total to 7. As usual, he's not doing anything complicated. He just knows that when the leaves are on the trees, it's time to be throwing a plastic worm. So he is. And while Barker is fishing a worm, amateur partner Ron Foss is throwing a jig. And he's not doing too badly either. In fact, most of the Pro-Am anglers are catching fish. By mid-morning, Jackie Davis is well on his way to a limit. And not too far away, Jackie's brother Jimmy and amateur partner Larry Denton are also catching fish by pitching jigs around boat docks. Bunky Long and amateur partner Tom Walker aren't catching any big fish, but they're both moving closer to limits, fishing deep with Carolina rigs. Meanwhile, Howard Buning's been pitching worms and jigs around pole timber and flooded bushes, and he already has his limit, so it looks like it's been a great day all around. When the Pro-Am anglers return to the Kimberling Inn for the Day 1 weigh-in, Dennis Jasko establishes the early amateur division standard with 10.25 pounds. Bob Jorgensen, who won the amateur division title at the Fall Pro-Am in November, has only 3 fish and falls back into the pack with 6.55 pounds. A short time later, Ken Sullivan comes to the scales.
Leading the amateur division, 10.35 pounds, but if you look what I saw in that bag, that's gone, is it?
It might be close.
Might be close. 3 fish.
Yeah, just 3.
Oh, it's gone. 3 fish are going to weigh more than that, I think. There it is. Can I call them or what?
You can call it.
What? 10.90 pounds, a new leader in the amateur division.
Late in the third flight, Brian Herndon arrives with a limit that could challenge Sullivan's lead.
5 bass, and that should challenge the lead that Ken Sullivan has. He has 10.90 pounds. Will yours weigh that?
Yeah, they might make it.
We'll see here. Call the weight here. There it is. There's the new leader. 13 pounds even.
In the Pro Division, Howard Buning is in with the first flight and has a solid limit. His fish weigh 13.4 pounds, and he takes the Pro Division lead. Right behind Buning is Larry Wilcox, who jumps into the lead briefly with 13.55 pounds before Bobby Albert comes to the scales.
Oh, my goodness. Look here. Look here. 7.75 pounds. Get her out of there and get a picture of her. Looky here at this old girl here. My goodness gracious. Oh, look at this beautiful old Table Rock bass. Look at there. That's your new big bass leader in the Pro Division right here. My good. Oh, and he's got another one just like her. Look at this sack of fish here. Holy moly. There's one Kentucky. My goodness gracious. Oh, look at this sack of fish. Look at here. Oh, my goodness. 23.65 pounds. Get some of those fish out of there. Let's get some pictures of those bass. Oh, look at here. Look at here. There's your leader right now in the Pro Division. Look at these beautiful Table Rock bass. My goodness. Oh, buddy. Come here, son.
I'm just going to lie to you.
You're just going to lie to me? No matter what I ask you?
Yep, that's right.
How soon did you catch him?
I had a limit probably by noon and called just a few fish.
He's shaking like a leaf up here. I mean, he just absolutely. Now, you got a lot of big fish in there. Can you even think about duplicating that?
I think I maybe will get 5 keeper buys, but I ain't no way going to get that size.
Troy Akins comes in with this hefty 6.5 pounder, but he has only 3 other keepers and settles into second place with 13.8 pounds. A short time later, Roger Dial comes to the scales.
Bobby Albert weighed in 23.65 pounds earlier, and they're talking my guys have seen more bass than anybody. Oh, look at this. Oh, my goodness. Oh, look at this. 25.70 pounds. Get them out. Get them all out of there. Look at these bass. Now, there's your leader in the Pro Division, Roger Dial. Look at these bass. Oh, my goodness. And I suppose we can go duplicate this day tomorrow.
Right.
We're going to try. Looky here. Come on. Everybody's going to wonder. Tell them what you caught them on.
I guess I'll have to come back tomorrow.
All right. Is that kid the kid that fished with you? No? No, I wish, huh? You ready to hear this one more time? New leader in the Pro Division, Roger Dial.
At the end of a dramatic first day, Roger Dial holds the Pro Division lead with 25.7 pounds, the 4th highest one-day catch in Central Pro-Am history. Right behind Dial on the Quantum Pro-Am scoreboard is Bobby Albert with 23.65 pounds, followed by David Bailey, Mark Pitchford, and Charlie Starks. In the rest of the top 10, Chris Murphy leads the way in 6th place with 17.95 pounds. But Brian Snowden, Terry Thomas, Kevin Bowling, and Dave Barker are hot on his trail. In the amateur division, Brian Herndon holds down the top spot with 13 pounds, giving him a 2-pound edge over Ken Sullivan in 2nd, with Mason Chambers, Bill Sutton, and Dennis Jasko in hot pursuit. In the rest of the top 10, Jim Williamson leads the way with 10.15 pounds, with David Holbrook, Jackie Smith, Mike Jones, and Ed Shea close behind. Stay tuned for exciting Day 2 action. Central Pro-Am's top competitors, brought to you by Daylight Donuts, the best donuts around. In 1998, Butch Still won the Table Rock Pro-Am with a suspending rogue. Still is a master at fishing stick baits, and there's a lot to learn when he explains how he fishes them his way.
Most people that catch fish on a jerk bait fish it too aggressive. On the right days, they catch a lot of fish, but when it gets tough, they don't slow their bait down. Just slow down. That's the main thing I can say. When you think you're fishing slow, fish a little slower. I use 8-pound test Maxima line and a fairly slow retrieve reel and medium light rod, 6.6. The light action rod, if you get to jerking it too hard, that light action cuts down on the jerks. With a faster reel, I get to wanting to move my bait too fast. You know, if I turn the handles a full turn on the reel, I've moved the bait too far, and you cut the retrieve down, you don't move it as fast.
The morning of Day 2 is warm and humid. It's still overcast, but it's noticeably brighter than Day 1. And how that will affect the fishing is anybody's guess. Roger Dial has targeted isolated willows and buckbrush along Main Lake Flats. He had a limit by 7:30 on Day 1, but this morning the going is tougher. He starts with a spinnerbait to see if the bass are roaming, but once he determines they aren't, he goes back to the black and blue jig that produced his Day 1 limit. Immediately, he starts catching fish. And not to be outdone, amateur partner Brad Herndon proves he's also up to the challenge. Bobby Albert is running a series of spots between Joe Bald and Table Rock Dam. And it's clear right away he has the fish to give Roger Dial a run for his money. Albert is a former Pro-Am Championship qualifier in the amateur division who eventually moved up to the pro division. And today he's showing he belongs there. He's pitching jigs around flooded brush and boat docks. And once he lands this moose, it's obvious this contest is going down to the wire. Mark Pitchford is out with the second flight and heads to his most productive spot, only to get the shock of his fishing life. Already there in the same area is Roger Dial. If Pitchford's topwater fish have stayed out in open water, he still may be able to catch them. But if they've moved into cover along the bank during the night, well, it may already be too late. David Bailey was in 3rd place after Day 1, but today, Bailey's fish aren't hitting. About mid-morning, Bailey gets his first keeper, but he knows that unless the bite picks up considerably, he's going to have to change tactics to stay in the game. Before the tournament began, Roger Dial identified a series of 24 areas he wanted to fish during the tournament, and he's continuing to run and gun from one to the next.
I've been catching a lot of fish, a lot of good fish out of these bushes. I came up here 3 weeks ago and I caught fish, and come up last weekend and caught fish, and they've kind of held up. The water level's gone up and down, and now it's lower than it's been. But that's why I'm just kind of running around looking for these deeper bushes. That seems like the fish have kind of pulled out to those, and that's where they're at. I've just got a Stanley black and blue jig, 7/16 ounce, tipped with a salt crawl. Seems like they hit it right as it gets to the bottom, and when you lift up on it, they're just there, and they won't shake their head or do anything to let you know they're on there. Kind of deceiving bite, you have to be on your toes.
At last, Dial comes to a bush where he caught a 5-pounder on Day 1 and tells the Fishin' Magazine camera crew he's certain there's another one the same size under the bush today. He's right, but he's wrong. This fish is even bigger than that. As the day wears on, Bobby Albert is doing his best to stay right with Dial. The 23-pound catch Albert had on day one included one bass that weighed nearly 8 pounds, and Albert knows he can't expect another fish like that. But by mid-morning, he's closing in on his limit, and his fish are all solid keepers. If Albert can get one big fish to go with them, Roger Dial will have to have another red-letter day to beat him. When the Pro-Am anglers return to the Kimberling Inn for the final weigh-in, Mark McCurdy comes in with 4 solid bass to grab the amateur division lead with a 2-day total of 13.4 pounds. A few moments later, first-day leader Brian Herndon comes to the scales.
How many we got? 2 bass today. Mark McCurdy took the lead with 13.40 pounds. We're going to come right back at him again. Here it goes. 5.10 pounds, 18.10, a new leader in the amateur division, Brian Herndon.
Dustin Carpenter comes in with this 5.5-pound bass, but it's his only keeper, and he can't overtake Herndon. Next is Bob Jorgensen.
He had 6.55 pounds yesterday, leading the tournament. Brian Herndon, 18.10. How many you got?
4 fish, honey.
4 fish. They got to weigh almost 12 pounds to take the lead. Might do it. We're going to look and see. Here we go. Settle down here now. Settle down. Watch out. Watch out. 11.95 pounds. Mark it. 18.50 pounds. A new leader in the amateur division, Bob Jorgensen.
In the pro division, one of the first to weigh in is Charlie Starks.
37.50 pounds. A new leader in the pro division, Charlie Starks.
All the while, Roger Dial's parents, who've driven all the way from Tahlequah, Oklahoma to see the weigh-in, wait anxiously for their son to arrive. Finally, Dial comes to the scales.
Look here at this Berkeley Trilene weighing bag. Look here. Looky here. 22.25 pounds. Get those fish out of the sack. Look at these beautiful table rock bass. This young man from Tahlequah, Oklahoma, has 47.95 pounds. That's your leader right now in the pro division.
At last, there's only one angler with a chance to overtake Dial, Bobby Albert.
$10,500 on the line right now. The last man that could even come close to touching him. Have you got a limit?
I've got 5.
He has a limit. That's all you can bring in. Here we go. We've got a good sack of fish. They got to get way on up there. Get on up. 15.75 pounds.
It's in the record books now. Roger Dial's 2-day total of 47.95 pounds sets a new all-time Central Pro-Am record and carries him to his first Central Pro-Am victory. Bobby Albert comes through with 39.4 pounds, a total good enough to win most tournaments, to finish second, while Charlie Starks, Jimmy Davis, and Dave Barker complete the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, Troy Aikens and Kevin Bowling lead the way in 6th and 7th place, respectively. In the amateur division, Bob Jorgensen wins his second Pro-Am title with a 2-day total of 18.5 pounds, edging out runner-up Brian Herndon by less than half a pound, with Mike Bennett, Ken Sullivan, and David Simmons rounding out the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, John Bond's 2-day total of 16.65 carries him to 6th place, with Mike Jones less than an ounce behind in 7th. Stay tuned for tournament winning tips from Roger Dial. We'll be right back. Where they still build them one at a time.
After I found out that the lake was down, I went looking for the deeper willow bushes. I was catching all my fish out of willow bushes, and there were a few, mostly on the flats, that seemed to be in just a little deeper water than all the rest of the bushes. And those were the ones that I set out in the pre-practice is kind of running the lake and looking for those bushes that seem to have a little more water on them. I may only pull into a point and fish 2 or 3 bushes, and then I'd be on my way. I probably made at least 30 stops a day in finding these, and I think that was a big key, was just looking for the willow bushes that seemed to sit out in a little deeper water and offered a little more shade and a little more depth than just all the rest of them. The water was only 2 or 3 foot deep in the bushes that I was catching them in. You had to make a real quiet entry. We didn't have much wind either day. The water's shallow and most of it's pretty clear. And you had to make a silent presentation to be able to catch the fish. Plus you had to be able to get your bait far enough up in the cover where they didn't have to come out and chase it, because they weren't chasing any lures. You just had to drop it in front of their face and they'd bite it. I was flipping a black and blue Stanley jig with a black and blue Jean LaRue salt crawl, half-ounce jig, and I had caught some on other colors, but that seemed to be working well, so I didn't change.
You know, when the calendar flips over to June, most people think that Table Rock becomes a recreational lake. Well, it does, if your recreation involves a rod and a reel. Hey, thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next week on the Fishing Magazine television series.
The Fishing Magazine television